I've been watching. We know that I'm into real estate, and it's fascinating to me what's happening in real estate, and it's fascinating to me that people will live in these cities. You know, you look at San Francisco, you look at Los Angeles. I have gone to. I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast. Stop me if I have, about how ugly things are in Southern California, how ugly they are in New York, how ugly they are in Chicago versus third world countries. So I have been to all over the world. I spent about 30 some days in Africa 2 years ago. And up until that point, you've all heard the story of the family that lives in the metal corrugated shack, and that the shacks go on forever, and that the people all live in the shacks. And they had a significant amount of self-respect and respect for themselves. The woman had to sweep out the dirt floor, if you'll remember the story. Mm-hmm. They had to carry their 5-gallon bucket for 2 miles because the truck came twice a day to empty it out. I saw this with my own eyes. I would drive through the towns, and there would be hundreds of men out of work because unemployment's 70%. And what?
You told me last time, anytime you start going on a rant, to tell you to look at the camera. So that was me trying to nonchalantly
is that me on a rant? I didn't realize I was on a rant.
I felt like this was getting
into that. You got to give me
that,
okay, so finger on the left side of your nose is rant. Point at the camera is camera rant. Because there's, are you, what are you saying, Jerry? So now I don't even remember what the fuck I was talking about. So,
cities. Compared to third world countries.
I mean, I've been to the third world countries. I've been there, and the woman not letting me come in because she was so proud of her dirt floor in her little tiny, crappy 110 degree, literally, it's 110 degrees outside. It's a metal corrugated shed that's about 15 by 15, and she sweeps the floor. Now, not lost in this story, and anybody listening to this podcast regularly has heard me talk about this before, not lost in this story is that they shit in a bucket. So a 5-gallon bucket is what is their toilet. And twice a day, they would take that toilet. I don't know how many. Seems like there were 7 or 8 people living in the one little, I mean, I don't know how big our studio is here. We're probably 15 feet across by maybe 8 feet deep.
Yeah, something like that.
Across by deep. So let's say twice again as deep or across as this is, but about the same size depth-wise. So not very big at all. And their their what little meager possessions they owned were folded up in the corners, and they had some books and things like that, but nothing really, just a very meager living. But there was no shit all over the ground. There was no garbage for the most part all over the ground. It's dirty. Without a doubt, it was dirty. And without a doubt, out and around had garbage. But where they were living was clean. And then they made their migration their trek, I should say, every middle of the day and the end of the day, because the truck would show up, that they would empty their 5-gallon bucket that served as their toilet. So they got to carry that goddamn thing for 2 miles. And I was struck by her sense of self-respect, having nothing. They have no unemployment in Africa, no unemployment insurance. They have no benefits. They have, there's no food stamps. There's none of that. The only thing the government pays you for is to have kids. So if you have kids under 18, that's, I think they told me $75 a month, something like that. And so they are incentivized to have these children. That's the only amount of benefit that they have. And of course, unemployment is 70%. So, excuse me. I contrast that with what I see here in my own home city. I contrast that with what I see in San Francisco, what I see in Los Angeles, what I see in Chicago, what I see in New York. And what I see particularly here on the West Coast is what in Seattle in particular, is a level of garbage, a level of human filth, from drug paraphernalia to human waste to piss all over the place to garbage everywhere to tents, to dog feces, needles, you name it. We've all heard it. Literally rats running around, disease running around with the rats being carried in this filth. is more than anything I've ever seen or that I saw in all the time I spent in Africa and all the time I spent in very poor parts of China. I've not seen anything like it. So this is what we have to be proud of, is that we've allowed this to happen. Why don't they have it there? If we have it here, why don't they have it there? If this is the inevitable outcome for society, that the least fortunate among us live on the streets, why don't they have that in other countries? Now let me take it a step further. I just came back from Tennessee, where I was for 4 days. I didn't see a single tent. I didn't see a single homeless person. I didn't see a single person begging. I was in Nashville, and I was south of Nashville, and there wasn't a single person. I looked, I watched. I was very curious to see what it would look like, because I hadn't been down there relative to what it looks like here in my city in Portland, and I was struck by this. When you get on the freeway in Tennessee, there's 2 lanes. So there's 2 big lanes. And when you get on, you turn left, and let's say you're getting on the freeway, and there's 2 big lanes, and those 2 big lanes stay 2 lanes as you get on the freeway. And then slowly 1 lane on the outside disappears, and 1 lane then on the inside, on the outside, and the inside disappears, and you have to get on the freeway. And the freeways are all 4 lanes. Nothing like what we have here in Portland. Portland, the traffic's some of the worst in the country. Or Seattle. Seattle's a complete shithole. And so you have 4 lanes. And then when there's an off-ramp coming up, you have a 5th lane. You get over in that 5th lane. And the speed limit's 70 plus mile an hour. So you're doing 80 plus miles an hour. But at the on-ramp, there's no begging. There's no person standing there holding a sign begging. On the on-ramp, there's no on the sides, and up underneath the overpasses, there's no tents. And so with the tents, here in Portland, wherever you go, is garbage everywhere. Now, again, they want you to believe in Portland that this is one of the most beautiful cities. I've lived in Portland for 50 plus years now. I was born in Medford, down on the California coast here in Oregon. When I was 6 months old, we moved to Portland. So essentially, I've lived in Portland my entire life. 51 years I've lived in Portland. And for years, Portland was the beautiful city. Portland was that shining city. We got the mountains in the background, Mount Hood. We got the mountains there. We got the ocean an hour and a half away. You got year-round snow up on Mount Hood, which Billy can tell you about. You got
giant
woods.
Columbia River.
Giant, I mean, what we call a river, unless you live on the Mississippi, you don't know what a river is until you've seen the Columbia River. You got the gorge, which is what the river cut its way through. You have just about everything that if you were an outdoors person would want. But you have the politics that go with that, unfortunately. You have the environmentalists that have all but destroyed the state. And in particular, you have a certain political leaning, a certain political ideology, I should say, that says that we're going to let people run roughshod all over the city. And so the city is filthy. So a state that prides itself on its beauty and its grandeur and its rivers and its streams and its forests and all of the rest that we have to constantly listen to being shoved down our throats is literally filthier than a third world country based on my hands-on experience having lived there or having gone there in multiple countries. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Cancun. I've been to the other side of the peninsula. I forget the name of that town. So I've been down there multiple times. There's nothing as filthy as San Francisco. I've not been to Tijuana, so I can't speak about Tijuana. But there's nothing as filthy as San Francisco. There's nothing as filthy as Los Angeles. There's nothing as filthy as Seattle, and there's nothing as filthy as Portland.